Zara, what are you wearing? It's gold. I thought for once I'd wear something that made me feel you're too fat for this dress.
The dress was the most beautiful thing Zara Okonta had ever owned. Deep gold, the color of something molten, it caught the chandelier light and held it against every curve of her like the night itself had decided, just this once, to be on her side. She had saved for 3 months. She had stood in the boutique with her heart pounding and thought, for the first time in longer than she could remember, I look beautiful. Not in spite of her body, because of it. For one breath, standing in that glittering foyer, she believed it. Then she heard the heels. She would know that walk anywhere. Sharp, precise. The sound of a woman who had spent her whole life entering rooms like she was correcting them. Zara's spine straightened before she even turned, an old reflex, the body bracing before the mind caught up. Tae-young Okonta crossed the marble like she owned the light it threw. Her mother's gaze landed on her and traveled down, slow, cataloging. The way you look at a stain you are deciding whether to mention. Zara felt her stomach tighten. Please, she thought, not tonight. Just let me have tonight. Zara. Her mother's voice was light, pleasant even. That was the worst part, how pleasant it always was. What are you wearing? It's gold. Zara's hand smoothed the satin at her hip. Do you like it? I thought, for once, I'd wear something that made me feel... You're too fat for this dress. The words did not land like a slap. A slap would have been mercy. They landed like a sentence read aloud in a courtroom, final, official, witnessed. And they had been witnessed. A small cluster of guests near the staircase had gone quiet. A woman's champagne flute paused halfway to her lips. Somewhere, a laugh died in someone's throat. The pleasant golden noise of the gala thinned to a hush in the 10 feet that surrounded Zara, and into that hush her mother's words went on echoing. Fat, fat, fat. Like a stone dropped down a well with no bottom. Zara's pulse climbed into her throat. She could feel her heartbeat in her ears, a fast 112 beats a minute of pure humiliation, and the obscene, hysterical thought surfaced that she could actually count it. She should have looked down. Every other time in her life she had looked down, made herself smaller, apologized with her shoulders for the space she took up. But something tonight refused. Maybe it was the dress. Maybe it was 3 months of saving and 1 single hour of feeling beautiful that she was not ready to surrender. Whatever it was, Zara did not look down. She lifted her chin, and she let her mother see the tears standing in her eyes without letting a single one fall. I heard you, she said quietly. Everyone heard you. And across the foyer, half in shadow beside a marble column, a man who was not supposed to notice anything had heard her too. Nobody had pointed him out to her. Nobody needed to. There is a particular stillness that powerful men carry, and Daniel Seo carried the most dangerous stillness in the room. The guests had been pretending not to look at him all night, the way you pretend not to look at a loaded thing left carelessly on a table. He owned half the city. The other half owed him. And right now, the only thing in the entire glittering ballroom that had managed to hold his attention was a woman in a gold dress who had just been told, in front of everyone, that she was too much. He did not see too much. He looked at her across that humiliating silence, and what Daniel Seo saw was the only person in the room worth watching. He set the untouched whiskey down on a passing tray, and he started walking toward her. The room felt him move before it saw him. Heads turned in a slow ripple, the way a field turns when wind crosses it. Conversations folded mid-sentence. Adeze, mid-breath for whatever cruelty she had loaded next, followed the direction of the sudden hush, and her practiced composure flickered for the first time all night. Because Daniel Seo did not walk toward people. People were brought to him, and he was walking toward her daughter. Zara had not turned yet. She was still holding her mother's eyes, still refusing to fall apart, and so she did not understand why Adeze's face had gone the careful blank of a woman recalculating everything. Then a voice spoke from just behind her shoulder, low, unhurried, the kind of voice that never has to be raised because the world has already agreed to go quiet for it. You dropped something. Zara turned, and there he was, close enough that she had to tilt her head up, holding out one hand toward her as though offering back something she had lost. His palm was empty. There was nothing in it at all. She stared at the empty hand, then up at his face, and her confusion must have shown, because the corner of his mouth moved, just barely, the ghost of something that was not quite a smile. "Your composure," he said, quiet enough that only she could hear. "You dropped it for a second. Take it back. Don't give it to her." Zara's breath caught somewhere behind her ribs. Adeze stepped forward, recovering, her social smile snapping into place like a blade returning to its sheath. "Mr. So, what an honor. I'm Adeze Okonta, Zara's mother, and I do apologize if she... I heard what you said to her." He did not look at Adeze. He was still looking at Zara. "The whole room heard what you said to her." Now he looked at Adeze, and the temperature of the foyer seemed to drop 10 degrees. "So let me make sure I heard it correctly," he said. "You looked at the most beautiful woman in this room, and you decided the problem was the dress." The silence that followed had weight. Guests who had pretended not to watch the humiliation now openly stared at its reversal. Adeze's mouth opened and produced nothing. Zara stood between them, her heart hammering, not understanding what was happening, only that for the first time in her entire life, someone had stepped in front of the blade instead of handing her to it. "I think," Daniel said, turning his shoulder to Adeze in a gesture so complete it was almost violent, cutting her out of the conversation as cleanly as scissors through thread, "that you are going to leave your daughter alone tonight." Adeze's eyes flicked between them, doing the math that powerful rooms force people to do. This was not a man you embarrassed yourself in front of. This was not a man whose attention you wanted aimed at your family for the wrong reasons. "Of course," she said finally, the word brittle as old paint. "Zara, we'll talk later." "No," Daniel said. "I don't think you will." And he turned his back on Adeze Okonta entirely, the most powerful insult he could pay her, and offered Zara his arm. She looked at it. This dark-sleeved arm, this impossible exit, this stranger who knew her humiliation by heart and had chosen to stand in it with her. "Don't," a voice in her warned. "Men like this don't rescue women like you for free. Nothing he does is free." She took his arm anyway. They walked out together through a corridor of staring faces, and Zara held her head high the entire way, because his arm under her hand made it possible, and she hated a little how much she needed that to be possible. At the top of the marble stairs, just before the doors, he leaned in. His breath was warm against her ear. "You didn't cry," he said. "In there. Even when you wanted to. I noticed." And right there, with her heart in her throat and a dangerous stranger's voice still warm against her ear, "I have to stop and talk to you for just 1 second, because if you are feeling this, the tightness in your own chest, the way you cannot look away from these two, then do something for the people who built this story for you. Tap that subscribe button. It is not a demand. It is a small signal that tells AfroK timeless stories that the long nights spent crafting stories like this are landing on someone who truly feels them. Every single subscriber is a reason for us to keep going. So if Zara's world already has its hooks in you, stay with us. Subscribe, and let us see together exactly how deep this goes. The cold night air hit Zara like a release of pressure. Rain misted down over the carpet, fine as breath, and a black car waited at the curb with its engine purring low. She stopped at the top of the steps. "I don't even know your name," she said, which was a lie. Everyone knew his name, but she wanted to hear how he would give it to her. "Yes, you do," Daniel said. He opened the car door himself, something men like him never did. "But say it anyway. I want to hear how you say it." "Daniel Seo," she said. His name in her mouth did something to his face, a flicker, gone before she could name it. "Get in, Zara Okonta," he said, "before your mother comes looking for an audience." She should not have. Every sensible thing she had ever been taught screamed at her not to, and that was precisely why she did. She got in. The door closed and the city went quiet. Inside the car, the world shrank to soft caramel leather, the low amber glow of the dash, and the sound of rain finding the windows. Zara sat very straight, her hands knotted in her lap, suddenly aware of every inch of space she took up on the seat, an old shame creeping back. "Stop that," Daniel said without looking at her. Stop what? Shrinking. You've been doing it since you got in the car. You did it the whole walk out. You make yourself smaller when you're nervous. Now he looked at her, and his dark eyes missed nothing. You don't have to do that in here. Zara's throat tightened. You don't know me. No, he agreed, but I've watched you for the last hour, and I know your mother is wrong about the dress. She wanted to argue. She had a lifetime of arguments ready, a whole armory of reasons she was too much, took up too much, asked for too much. They sat ready on her tongue. But the way he said it, flat and certain, like a fact and not a kindness, undid something in her. Kindness she could have deflected. She had practiced deflecting kindness. This was not kindness. This was a verdict, and it had landed in her favor. Where are you taking me? She asked. Somewhere your mother can't follow. The car pulled smoothly into the rain-slick night. After that, it's your choice. It will always be your choice. That's the one thing I need you to understand before we go any further. Zara looked at him in the dark, this dangerous man who kept saying the word choice like it was a weapon he was handing to her instead of keeping for himself. The penthouse was on the 40th floor, and when the elevator doors opened directly into it, Zara forgot, for a moment, to breathe. The whole city lay below them through a wall of glass, a field of burning light, and the room itself was all dark wood and low gold lamps and the kind of silence that money builds on purpose. She had cleaned apartments like this. She had never stood in one as a guest. You can stop looking like you're going to apologize for being here, Daniel said, shrugging out of his jacket. Sit. Anywhere. The furniture won't judge you. I had it specifically vetted. A surprised laugh escaped her before she could stop it, bright and real in the quiet room, and his head turned at the sound of it like she'd done something remarkable. For a while they did not talk about anything that mattered. He poured her something dark and sweet she did not recognize. She told him, carefully, about the boutique and the 3 months of saving, and watched his jaw tighten when she got to the part about her mother. Tell me something, he said, sitting across from her, the city burning behind his head. The dress. You said it made you feel beautiful. Past tense. Does it still? The question caught her off guard. She looked down at the gold satin, the fabric she had loved an hour ago and almost hated since. I don't know, she admitted. She has a way of taking things from me even after she's gone. Then we'll have to make sure she stops, Daniel said. And the simple, terrifying certainty in his voice, like the matter was already settled, already in motion, made the hair on her arms rise. Don't, Zara said suddenly. He raised an eyebrow. Don't do that. Don't talk about my mother like she's a problem you can just make disappear. I don't know what you do. I mean, I know what people say you do, but I'm not going to be a woman who lets a dangerous man handle her life because he was nice to her one bad night. She set the glass down, her hand trembling only a little. I've spent 26 years being managed by someone who said it was for my own good. I'm not trading one for another, even one who smells this good. For a long moment, Daniel said nothing. Then, slowly, he smiled. Not the ghost from earlier, a real one, startling on that controlled face, and it made him look younger and far more dangerous at once. There she is, he said softly. That's the woman I saw on the stairs. Something had shifted between them, and they both felt it, this recognition, like two people discovering they spoke the same rare language. He was not used to being told no, she could see that, and he liked it from her in a way that frightened them both. His phone buzzed against the dark coffee table. He glanced at it, and the warmth drained from his face so completely and so fast that Zara felt the temperature of the entire room change. Whatever was on that screen, it was bad. Daniel? Zara watched him stand, slow and deliberate, every casual line of him gone rigid. What is it? Nothing for you to worry about. But his voice had changed. The warmth had been a room he'd let her into, and now the door was closing. That's not an answer. It's the only one you're getting tonight. He crossed to the window, his back to her, shoulders a hard line against the burning city. You should know something about me, Zara. The same reach that pulled you out of that room tonight, it has a cost. People who get close to me get watched, get used, get hurt. He turned, and his eyes were flat and far away. Maybe your mother did you a favor calling you too much. Maybe it would have been better if you'd never caught my attention at all. And if you are still here with me, still holding your breath through every twist of this, do me one small thing right now. Drop a comment and let me know you are still watching. Just a word or an emoji that matches whatever mood this story has put you in this very second. And tell me where in the world you are watching from and what time it is where you are, because I love knowing exactly who is out there in the dark living this story with Zara right now. So go ahead, comment. Let me see you. Now, back to that penthouse where Zara is about to do the one thing Daniel Seo never expected. She crossed the room toward him instead of away from him. "You don't get to do that," she said. "You don't get to decide for me that I'm safer without you and call it protection." That's exactly what she does. She takes my choices and wraps them up as love. She stopped, close enough to feel the heat of him, and tilted her head up the way she'd had to all night. "If there's danger, tell me. Let me decide what I can carry. Stop deciding I'm too much for it." His jaw worked. For a man who controlled entire rooms with a glance, he looked, for 1 second, completely undone by a woman in a gold dress refusing to be saved from him. "You don't understand what you're asking for," he said roughly. "Then explain it to me. Who was the message from?" A long silence. The city burned. And then he said a name that meant nothing to her yet, but that would come to mean everything. Kim Tae-young. "He's the reason I have the reach I have," Daniel said. "And the reason that reach is dangerous. We came up together, then we didn't. He's spent 3 years trying to find the one thing I'd bleed for, the one pressure point that would finally make me kneel." His eyes came back to her, and there was something terrible and tender in them. "And tonight, in front of 300 people, I walked across a ballroom and showed him exactly where it is." Zara's blood went cold. "Me," she whispered. "You mean me?" "He was at the gala, Zara. He saw the whole thing. He saw me cross that room for you." Daniel's hand rose, hovered near her face, did not quite touch. "An hour ago, you were a woman with a cruel mother and a beautiful dress. Now, you're the most valuable person in this city to the most dangerous man in it. Because of me." The space between his hand and her cheek held a charge she could feel on her skin. Neither of them moved to close it. Neither of them moved to break it. "So that's the choice," Daniel said quietly. "I can have you driven home tonight, and I can make Kim Tae-young believe you meant nothing to me, that you were a passing whim, beneath my attention. He'd lose interest. You'd be safe. You'd never see me again." His thumb finally, barely, grazed the line of her jaw. "Or you stay, and we are honest about what this already is, and I keep you safe myself. But there's no pretending then, not to him, not to me, not to you." Zara stood inside the warmth of his almost touch and understood that whatever she said next would change the entire shape of her life. "And which one do you want?" she asked. "It doesn't matter what I want." His voice dropped. "I told you, it's your choice. It will always be your choice. That's the only way I'll let this be different from her." She didn't answer with words. She stayed. Later, much later, he took her up a private stair to a rooftop terrace where the whole world lay spread out and burning beneath them. And for the first time in her life, Zara Okonta stood somewhere high and bright, and did not feel like she had to make herself small to deserve it. "Tell me about the mission," Daniel said, surprising her. "What mission?" "Everyone has one. The thing that was true about them before tonight, before me. What's yours?" So she told him. She told him about the small foundation she'd been quietly building for 2 years, the one her mother didn't know about, The one that put plus-size African women in front of cameras and runways and boardrooms and told them they were not too much. They were exactly enough. She'd been funding it on a clerk's salary, one woman at a time. It was the only thing she'd ever done purely for herself. Daniel listened without interrupting, and when she finished, he was quiet for a long time. "You walked into that gala tonight," he said slowly, "not as a guest. You were there for the foundation. You were looking for a donor." Zara went still. She hadn't told him that part. "How did you—" "Because I've been looking into you since the moment you took my arm," he said. "And what I've found is that you are not a woman who needs saving, Zara Okonta. You're a woman who's been building something powerful in the dark, while everyone told her she was nothing but a body to apologize for." He stepped closer. "That's not a weakness Kim Tae-young can use. That's a weapon. And I think you've never once been shown how to hold it." But Kim Tae-young did not wait to be outmaneuvered. 3 days later, Zara left her own small apartment to find that the city had changed around her in a way she could not see but could absolutely feel. A black car that wasn't Daniel's sat across the street too long. A man at the coffee shop folded the same newspaper twice without reading it. Daniel had warned her. Watched. Used. Hurt. She had thought she understood the words. She had not understood the way they would crawl across her skin. That evening, in the underground garage beneath her building, the elevator opened and a man with a thin scar nicking one eyebrow was leaning against the concrete, waiting, as though he had all the time in the world. "Miss Okonta." Her name in his mouth was a cold, careful thing. "You're even more striking up close. I can see why he lost his head in front of everyone. CO always did have expensive taste, and very poor self-control where it counts." Zara's heart slammed, that same traitor pulse climbing her throat. 130 now, she thought wildly, a hysterical part of her still counting. But she did not run. She did not shrink. She stood in the harsh white light of that garage in her ordinary coat and made herself as wide and unmoving as the woman on the staircase had been. "You must be Kim Tae-young," she said. "He told me you'd come eventually." "He didn't tell me you'd be this obvious about it." The half-smile faltered, just slightly. He had expected fear. She watched him recalculate, the same flicker she'd seen on her mother's face 3 nights ago, and she understood with a jolt that she had a power here she had never been taught she owned. "I'm going to give you a message for him," Kim Tae-young said, stepping off the pillar, his patience thinning. "Tell Daniel CO that I know about the foundation. I know about the donors, I know about the gala, and I know something he doesn't." His cold eyes glittered. "I know who really sent the invitation that put you in that ballroom on that exact night in front of that exact man. You think you ended up in front of Daniel CO by accident, Miss Okonta?" The garage seemed to tilt. "What are you talking about?" "Ask your mother," he said softly, "why she made sure you wore a dress that would get you noticed, and then humiliated you the second you were noticed. Ask her who she's been taking phone calls from for the last 6 months." He was already walking away, into the dark between the pillars. "You're not the pressure point in this story. You never were. You're the bait. And the person who baited the hook shares your last name." The elevator doors closed on an empty garage and left Zara standing alone in the buzzing white light with her whole life rearranging itself behind her eyes. The dress. Her mother had not just allowed the dress. Her mother had suggested the boutique, had pressed money into her hand, unheard of, and said, "Wear something that makes them look." And then, the moment 300 people were looking, she had cut Zara down in the cruelest words she owned, the words guaranteed to make a powerful man's head turn toward a beautiful woman being wounded. It had not been an accident that Daniel CO noticed her. It had been a performance. And Zara had been the unknowing star of it. She called Daniel with shaking hands. He answered on the first ring, and she heard the exact moment his voice sharpened, the moment he registered something was wrong. "Where are you?" he said, not a question, already moving. She could hear him already moving. "Daniel," her voice came out steadier than she felt, the staircase woman holding the trembling one upright. "Did you know? When you crossed that room for me, did you know my mother set the whole thing up to put me in front of you?" The silence on the other end of the line lasted 1 second too long. 1 single second. But Zara had spent her whole life reading the silences of people who claimed to love her, and she knew exactly what that one meant. "Zara," Daniel said carefully, "listen to me. You knew." It wasn't a question anymore. "You knew before you ever crossed that ballroom. The rescue, the car, the choice you kept handing me like it made you different from her." Her voice cracked down the middle. "Was any of it real? Or was I just a move on a board between you and Kim Tae-young, set up by my own mother and finished by you?" "It's not that simple." "Then make it simple." "I can't do this on a phone." His voice was low and urgent and frightening. "Where are you? Don't go home, Zara, do you hear me? Whatever you do tonight, do not go to your mother's house. It is not safe. Tell me where you are and I will come to you, and I will tell you everything, all of it. I swear to you. But you have to trust me for 1 more hour." Zara looked toward the exit ramp, where the cold night air came in from the street, and felt the last piece of the old Zara fall away. For 26 years she had let other people decide where she was allowed to stand. Her mother. And now, she understood, this man too, both of them moving her across a board, both of them certain they knew what was best for the too much woman who should just be grateful and stay where she was put. "Not me more. You want me to trust you for 1 more hour," she said quietly into the phone. "Here's what I'm going to do instead, Daniel. I'm going to go get my own answers from the one person who's owed me the truth my entire life." "Zara, no, do not go to her. She is not what you think she—" "I know exactly what she is," Zara said. "I'm starting to think I am the only one who finally does." And she hung up on the most dangerous man in the city, lifted her chin like a woman in a gold dress on a marble staircase, and walked out toward her mother's house, alone. Her mother was waiting in the lit doorway when she arrived, as though she had known Zara would come, as though this too were part of a performance written long before tonight. "You found out," Adaze said. It wasn't a question. She stepped back to let her daughter in, and there was something in her face Zara had never once seen there in 26 years. Fear. "Whatever Kim Tae-young told you," her mother said, "you need to understand. I didn't do it to hurt you. I did it to save your life. The dress, the gala, Daniel Seo, all of it. There's something about your father's death you were never told, and I only have a few minutes to explain it before they come." Behind Zara, out in the dark street, a car door closed softly. "Mom," Zara's voice dropped to a whisper. "What about Dad's death? Mom, who's coming?" Adaze Okonta looked over her daughter's shoulder, out into the dark street where the headlights had appeared, and every drop of color drained from her face. "They're already here," she breathed. And that's where it cuts. Right there, on the edge of everything. If your heart just dropped, if you need to know what Adaze knows about Zara's father, who is stepping out of those cars, and whether Daniel was protector or player all along, then there is only one thing left to do. Go down to that comment section and demand part 2. The louder you are, the faster it comes. So tell me, tell us all that you need the rest of this story. Comment part 2 and do not stop. Because what happens to Zara next changes absolutely everything.